post-military service, interesting graduate school experience, and some professional industry, had what I call placed like a mental fog, a haze that I've always been trying to get through. And I felt like I was able to break through that here and begin my next point of transformation. So I was really able to deepen a spiritual practice that for me had always started with physical asana. When I thought of yoga, I thought of it just as going to a yoga class and moving. But I come here and I like the integral style where there are 8 limbs and we go over all 8. And it really deepened my practice. It feels like dog years because there's no way that this was just 4 weeks. It really feels revolutionary, and I'm looking forward to reflecting upon this, and I would definitely recommend someone trying to deepen their practice to be in a safe community where they feel like they can just be at ease. And I think that's necessary. That tranquility in order to get into our spirituality is the one thing that I was missing, and that tranquility, I found it here. So I was in the Army for 5 years. I was in a really cool program to become a Special Forces Green Beret. 2 years of harrowing training, then I went to my unit for a few years, my total length of service being 5. Had a deployment to South Korea as well as Afghanistan. And the hardest thing for me were some harrowing interpersonal experiences and a friend of mine who had committed suicide. And that was the hardest thing for me to go over. It wasn't anything combat related, it was people. And it was challenging of conventional means to digest some of these emotions and trauma. And also emotions from childhood, right? That as you get into spirituality, they kind of come up subliminally. And I had started with a little bit of yoga therapy back in Tucson where I was going to school, and it was effective. But I knew that I needed to deepen my practice. I knew I needed to take personal responsibility. And that amount of military experience in the background, this, through my pursuits on all the other types of things and modalities, this proved to be very effective. I think the environment is one of the most important things, because when we're dealing, especially as veterans in PTSD and trauma, when we're in our traditional lifestyle, say I'm working whatever type of a job, and I'm trying to get through that trauma, I go through my 9-hour workday, which isn't framed like a 9-hour day is here. You don't have that time to pause, rest, and analyze, go deep. And then you have to provide all the food and washing your clothes and all this kind of stuff on your own at home. And it's so time consuming that I never found myself before having the energy or the bandwidth. I'd always push it off. I'd push off, working on myself. So I think that for veterans getting over PTSD, coming here is very effective, because all those environmental conditions, you still have to do your laundry, but it's really easy. It's really easy. But I don't have to go to the grocery store and get my food. I don't have to cook all my food other than the karma shifts, which are highly enjoyable around other people. So all those other types of things in life that I would find myself spending an exorbitant amount of time. And it was really challenging. I'd never be able to get over my trauma. And it's not just military trauma, it was a lot of other things preceding that. But one key thing that I just remembered is that in the karma service here, around roughly 21 hours, mostly in the kitchen, there is that direction and guidance on how to steer the mind on a single point of focus, as we learn in the meditation practice. And for me, using that as time as unpacking while being around other people, but in a safe environment, is much more effective than taking prescription medication and being alone in my house. And they're very, very different things. And this has shown me that digesting trauma is more than just a biophysical chemical reaction of me taking something and expecting that to make me better. It effectively doesn't work that way. They're very effective for veterans because there's regimen. There's positive amount of direction, and then a bit of personal freedom too to get into our practice. So you wake up in the morning, 05, which is like a normal military thing. get into meditation, and then we go right into Hatha Yoga, which would be like a PT time. And then there's breakfast. And that's very similar to the military style too. And then you have your working day, which is Karma Yoga. Awesome. I do a few hours of service. And then we have lunch. Okay, that's very similar too. Classroom instruction in the military. Classroom instruction at Yogaville. Doing a personal exploration of spirituality alone without that regimen, without that container in that safe space, is really hard. So when I saw that, I'm like, oh, this military guy, I can fall into a schedule easy. You're in a safe container to deepen your spirituality. And spirituality by no means is confined to just one method of practice, religion, faith.